let's get going. There we go. Good. So here we are. You're walking up here. You've chosen to rotate this path, which is the same path you ferreted. Let me actually just go back here. We jumped ahead a little. You're here. Not sure why your crosshair was on the stairs there, but other than that, this is reasonable.
I think my crosshair placement is probably going to be a running problem.
Okay.
I don't think I think about it that often.
Okay. So you're in this place where you're like, hey, I walked up to here. Cool,
Yeah.
I took that shot at that hog. Why are you back here? Like, this isn't a place that you can live. There's probably not a fair on the team who's going to boop you, but what if a Lucio did a rollout that took them through here, and now they're kind of come around to knock you off here? Are you aware of that?
It probably was not on my mind, but yeah. I think that's, and you'll find, I think that's a general sense that I have, is that there's a gap between my game knowledge and immediate game sense.
Sure.
So yeah, it's completely obvious to me now that this is a bad place
Okay.
to be, but I wasn't thinking about it.
Okay. So where could we get to instead that would be more useful? I'd be go ahead.
The Reinhardt, probably?
The Reinhardt. I think it's
behind
too
me?
late to get to your Reinhardt. I think your Reinhardt was able to get there because he has charge. I don't think you can walk across this to get to Reinhardt.
Right, yeah, that makes sense.
So I've got to pick somewhere else, and I really only see two options. I can go here, and then maybe play in Dojo, or just play from here, or I can try to go here. And this probably isn't an option if they have like a Reinhardt, because I just don't want to be that close to him unless I'm making my own flashbang play with my Reinhardt. But what I can pretty comfortably do is, A, they don't have that right now, so maybe this is doable. They didn't make it up pretty far. They didn't have a Lucio or anything that has already let them get close. This may be an option, but I'm probably just going to go to here and play from here and then play from Dojo.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, cool. Now Hog's been able to rotate closer. Reinhardt's created a window for you. But yeah, you're just staying here and it hurts. Okay.
Rest in peace.
So that happened. How many enemies are on your screen?
Reloaded though.
No, definitely shouldn't have. You've got half a clip, and you had no enemies on your screen for like an instant, so you hit the reload button. Like a bare instant, and now you're like, I eliminated Mercy. I better hit that reload button. What?
I'm just curious. I'm curious if that's gonna crack the top 3. That was one of my main asks.
Okay.
I knew it was gonna be in there.
Okay.
Rest in peace.
Well, so far it's number 2 on my list, but the list will evolve as time goes on here.
Right.
Okay, so this is better. You've worked yourself to a little bit of an angle here, and you have cover available to you. Like, this is significantly better than the first, 29 seconds of the... Okay, not the first entire 29, but about the 24 of the first 30 seconds of the match. This is better than, because, like, this was dumb, and this is good. This is good. This is okay. But, this is good. We have an angle that we can potentially, if they're staring at Reinhardt, they aren't paying as much attention to you. It's harder to see you. If they're staring at Fair, harder to see you. And you can shoot around things like Rein Shields, Diva, DMs, that sort of thing. So this we like. What? Okay. I guess you could do this.
I think I have a habit of touching point if no one else is.
Yeah, I'm not that worried about that, and I wonder if there's, like, a stagger I can get here, right? Like, I do want point, but it's not that important to me. I'm pretty convinced we're going to cap this. That is... Yeah. You're playing one-handed. You're playing one-handed right now, and I don't know why. There's no reason your crosshair can't have stayed there as you were dancing around like that.
Come on.
Okay. This hurts. This is painful.
I know.
What's the problem?
That I'm not actively contributing in any way right now.
Right. If you're chilling over here, you've got a nice crossfire. The range isn't great for you, but you've got a nice crossfire. You put some pressure into them. You discourage them from rotating this way and encourage them to rotate towards your team. You'd be pretty happy over here. You could have been playing over here. If you had time, you could rotate over here. All of those are so much better than this. Okay.
Enemy turret destroyed.
Okay, so the last time you reloaded it, 1 ammo, I was like, oh, you're reloading at 1 ammo because you see like scrap gun stuff coming towards you, you see damage coming towards you, so you're closing the angle and you're going, hey, I'm willing to reload at 1 ammo because I have to close this angle anyways, and I'm losing some time, but I'm losing less time, and obviously a reload at 1 ammo is less bad than a reload at 5 ammo, for example. But
Right.
what's causing this reload? Like,
I think I generally, well, part of the problem is that I just have never really thought about it, but
sure.
I think part of the reason that I haven't thought about it is I never really considered my game sense to be good enough to know when I should be reloading and when I shouldn't.
Okay. Okay. So what I would look at here, that's perfect actually. Just slow this down. Okay. So this is fine, and you'd go for one more shot, except you see like shot is coming at you, you don't like it. So again, I think you're closing this angle because you're like, I've pulled attention, people are paying
Hmm.
attention to me, I might as well reload, and it's I have 1 ammo left, I'm missing out on one bullet, and while you're going to be locked out of shooting at them from time you could be shooting, it's you're still getting some efficiency by reloading at a time that you wanted to dodge behind cover anyway. So that's good. Now we're going to do it again. No one's paying attention to you.
Enemy turret destroyed.
And there, the hog's looking at you, but I'm very confident that he can't hook you. I am very
Right.
confident. Like, you know it's hog that's shooting at you. It's only hog that's paying attention to you. You're at maximum hook range for him, and you have your combat roll, and you are on cover where you can break the hook with combat roll. You can break the roll with a click of the D button. Like, you can do this. And I'd have liked to see you spend that shot. Like, there's not a great reason to have closed yet, but that's okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think my habit is literally just as soon as I disengage, I reload.
Right. And that can't quite be the thing because, again, you could have reopened the angle now, right? You'd have been pretty
Yeah.
comfortable reopening the angle now, but you can't shoot yet. Okay, sure. Because this time you've decided you're backing up. I mean, there was probably the
Hmm.
ability to greed and to take like a shot over there and then just flip into this position after taking 1 to 2 shots there. But I can deal with it. If you're going to rotate, you expect no one to be on your screen for the next, let's say, second that it would take to reload. It doesn't take McCree a second, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you're really trying to judge is, hey, is someone on my screen that I could be shooting at, or should someone be on my screen that I could shoot at? And do I expect that condition to continue to be true for the entire duration of my reload? That's sort of what we're trying to judge when you're thinking about reload. Hmm. You just sort of change your mind here. You were going to step right, and then you decide you need to roll. So I'm going to live with that one. Okay. Okay. Sure. I don't really need to do that. Like, you sort of walked up, but what is better about here or even here than was true right here? This gave you, like, everything, right?
Hmm.
So why are we getting further away from cover?
I honestly think it's just I'm not thinking about it.
Yep. All good.
Yeah. Because I think the thing that, or at least one of the major things that moved me from silver up was that generally just thought about being back with my team, like just trying to start paying attention to where they were at, when they were engaging, that kind of thing.
Engagement timings are important, certainly.
Mhm. But yeah, other than that, there's definitely a lot of holdovers from silver play.
Sure. No, that's fine. Stacking with them isn't necessarily the best thing, but being aware of their timing is certainly important. Okay. How's this fight look? How do you feel about this fight right now?
Um, I think if I was a little bit more cognizant, I might have taken a wider angle,
Okay.
left side.
Sure. And I'd even still consider rotating towards that because I look at this fight and I go, hey, how's this fight going for your team versus their team?
Right now, it's pretty even, I think.
Relatively. I can probably afford to be missing from the fight long enough to rotate over here and try to go do something. That said, if you think you can brute force the diva down from here right now, so be it. I'm definitely using this reload time though. Like this just happened. I'm having to go through reload time. I might as well add a little time still because by the time my reload ends, I'm over here anyway, and then it's just a little bit further to get here. But okay. Okay, so here we are. You do this. You go for your reload. You do this. We break the mech. There's definitely a mercy right there. There's definitely the ability for you to open this angle a little harder and get more work done. But instead, you go, I eliminated something, so I better reload. This is not a game of duels. Overwatch sometimes includes duels, but it is not a game where you need to be like, I have to be full power at all times so I can win my duels. It's really more a game of pressure in a lot of ways, and you realize you're sort of draining some of your team's pressure a lot of these times when you're doing these early reloads. Does that conceptually make sense at least? Okay.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I think that's actually a holdover from probably Call of Duty or something like that. I just always reload whenever I've made an elimination.
Okay. Yeah, and like if you're between fights, if you were rotating, sure, this would be the time to reload, but you wouldn't rotate right now. You'd look at this and go, hey, I either want to line up the shot to hit Diva as she's ejecting, or I probably want to start shooting at Mercy.
Right.
Single shot reload, no rotate. Okay. Sure. That's
that was a bad
aggressive. Okay, so I'm looking at this, and maybe you think, hey, I'm going to overwhelm him. Maybe you think you have a teammate over here, like your BAP is over here or something. Maybe that's what's going on. I don't think you can just roll at this guy who's looking straight at you. That's a pretty easy flashbang for him. Go ahead.
Yeah, I did that, I think, because I didn't see the soldier.
Got it.
I probably thought I would throw him off, but that was move.
Okay. That was a bit of a weird jump that she did there.
Yeah.
Oh, look, more jumping. More jumping. Okay. Uh-huh. You see the soldier, good, you adjust. Okay, it's a little funny.
Yeah.
So, like, some of these are actually okay reloads, but, like, a lot of them aren't. In this one, you go, hey, I'm going to dodge over here to reload. What?
I think I was just checking to make sure their whole team was rotating left. But
sure, but
yeah,
that takes less time than your reload.
Exactly.
And you had 5 shots. Okay. I don't really need to roll here. Like, here you decide, hey, I better combat roll. Why? Yeah. Okay. Sure. That is not the window map. That is not the window. Okay. You have High Noon. Surely you're going to figure this... No.
I think I do use it here.
Much obliged.
It hurts to see.
It does. I'm going to be honest. You just this. Like, even with your 2 shots, you just flash this right now because you don't need a fan. You flash and shoot her, and Bap will hit her too, and you're good, and you then just roll out of here to get here. Baby Divas are going to be challenging for you, and that's fine. Like, she is an agile, small hitbox character. You just kind of look at this and go, okay, I'm going to flash Baby Divas, and that's perfectly fine. It actually gets her off the board.
Okay.
You don't need to feel like, oh, but she has no abilities. I don't have to... Okay, thank goodness.
In my defense, this was my first game. It was rough.
Okay, so here's the thing, though. You had High Noon for the entirety of that team fight. And you
Mhm.
played this team fight very kind of passive and standard, where you went, I'm going to poke you here, I'm going to poke you here, I'm going to poke you from here. And again, when you have that high noon, we get a little bit into, well, how can I use high noon effectively? And well, I could use it for a reload, but more seriously than that, you're sort of
Mhm.
looking for opportunities to go, when you rotate, you're giving up time to have more power later, right? To sort of have like
Right.
that flash of power. Well, you're going to have even more power when you have a high noon, so you can justify giving up even more time. Like you can afford to be missing from the fight for a little bit longer because you're going to have more power when the fight comes back. Are you with me so far?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I sort of look at this and go, well, how can I get more? Well, the easy way would be I'm just going to rotate out here and, I'm going to be able to threaten from here. This is sort of the standard off angle that we talked about, but you really had the ability. Was this team that you were up against terribly mobile? Like, they've got a tracer.
Mm,
Sure, sure.
I
Nothing
think
much.
my
Go ahead.
I think my thinking is usually the way I usually approach using a high noon
Hmm.
is I need to get at least Diva or well, at least one of the two shield tanks if I'm playing two people that can deny me pretty heavily like Diva and Sigma off the board so that I can have a better chance of getting multiple elims instead of just one.
Okay.
But I can see why that would be disadvantageous on a larger scale because if I've removed both of the tanks, then I probably don't need an ultimate to close out the fight necessarily.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. But removing them doesn't have to mean they're eliminated. If Diva boosts in to fight your Reinhardt, for example, or to fight
Hmm.
your what are we looking at here? Boost in to fight, yeah, your Reinhardt. She then doesn't have boosters, and if you're in a different direction of her team, like let's say your Reinhardt is here, she's here, and she boosts into this, and then you go, yes, now I shall stop hiding and I shall open the angle in high noon. You've effectively dealt with her. She's effectively off the table as far as you're concerned, right? But you didn't actually have to
Right.
wait for the team to be decided. So that would be one thing. You could have lurked deeper effectively if you knew that they were rotating this way and just been like, I'll chill over here, I'll chill up here, and I'm going to make a slightly risky play, don't get me wrong, to open behind you, but I'm going to have the power to justify that, to justify my having given up this pre-poke opportunity. The other
Right.
option was, hey, when are you going to use a high noon? Well, you could try to use a high noon behind a shield as they're advancing from here. That's something that you could do, sure, I suppose.
Hmm.
The other option, though, was they're going to either rotate across bridge or they're going to rotate this way, and either one of those are pretty big openings for high noon, right?
Right.
So those are sort of the three ways I'd be looking to use high noon, and at least really all three of those ways required you to think about how you were going to use your high noon. We're at 325 here. Required you to think
Hmm.
about how you were going to use your high noon.
Heroes never die.
My thought process here was
I need healing.
the Sigma was probably opening with an ultimate,
Hmm.
or I think he moved on to point with an
Great.
ultimate.
I hope he lifts you.
Um, right. Yeah. Well, he didn't, and then when he didn't, I saw okay, Diva's diving my backline, so if I can
Hmm.
remove her, I can probably clean up with the ultimate.
Sure,
But then that didn't go well. So
sure, and I get that. But I'd again
I
look at
definitely, yeah, I
this
see your point.
and go, I'm thinking about how I can use team high noon against this team. I'm looking at how I can use high noon soon against this team because hey, we've got really 4 ults going into this next fight, but I'd like to get it off the board so I can start charging it again. I'd like to use it while it's decisive. So that probably means I'm rotating out here and I'm ready to high noon from here or from here, this sort of thing. Because they're going to have to rotate through the high noon, and that's going to be tough for them. But okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't have even considered that to be honest. So that's a nice point. So if I'm writing that down, how would I structure that in the sense of like consider different positions to effectively use high noon?
Um, so I would say with high noon, you're generally looking to be on an off angle yourself, and you're generally looking to punish sort of a commitment. And the commitment can either be as they're committed to the team fight, because that would be what we're talking about, where
Mhm.
their diva just used boosters to go into your Reinhardt, or they've committed to a rotation enough that them backing out of that rotation is kind of expensive, right? You're not going to high
That
noon
makes sense.
when
Yeah.
they're in here, you're going to high noon when they get to about here, and it's like, well, what are you going to do? You can go back if you want, but that's still going to cost you some, or you can try to go forward. Like, you'd high noon when they're like here, where it's like, you want to go that way, but that way is further than that way. What's it going to be, guys? That sort of thing. And you already have
So
momentum carrying you this way.
yeah.
Yeah.
So broadening my perspective from just getting eliminations to how to basically put pressure on the enemy.
Right, and you're still trying to get eliminations with that high noon, don't get me wrong, but like if what ends up happening is you go, okay, I'll pull the trigger and break your shield, and then my Pharah is able to hit a rocket and finish you off. It doesn't actually have to be you that gets the elimination. You need to be putting pressure on them at a time when your team can put pressure on them. And vulnerable spots in the rotation are a time that your team is putting pressure on them, vulnerable spots in
Right.
the rotation, but also as they're fighting your team and you go, aha, I'm behind you. Well, they're fighting your team.
Right.
Oh, we don't need to see this again. We already saw this fight. I was using it as a reference. Sure. Okay.
Group up here.
Back into the mix.
Damn. Enemy contact.
Activate.
Not sure why you rolled there.
My Mercy called out the Tracer was on her, I think.
Okay. That's okay. I look at this, and I'm really thinking about this. If you're pushing this way with your team, I'm kind of looking for you to make an aggressive brawl play. Like, you're pushing this way with your team. You're not threatening cross poke from over here. You're not threatening cross poke from over here. You wouldn't do this as Cassidy. It's too dangerous for you. But you're not rotating, threatening that. That means I probably want you. There's no Pharah echo that you're keeping on us. I'm actually going to want you to play a little closer, especially when they have a soft front line in Sigma and Diva. I'm going to want you to play a little closer to your tanks to enable even harder brawl. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, in theory, I guess I usually tend to I'm always thinking about being behind them, not necessarily how close I am to them. If that
Okay.
makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's not like the most important thing for you to get right now. I can pretty much guarantee you it's not going to make the list, but you're
Mhm.
basically like, you kind of look at this and go, I'm either looking to get off-angle value, and if I'm not looking to get off-angle value, I'm trying to throw a change-up, of course. It's usually going to be a flash play with your team. The rest of the time, you're looking for an off-angle, and if you can't get an off-angle right now, I kind of want that, to be able to hit my flash play. But that's
So
okay.
the theory is that because my tanks have more survivability, or at least more ability to block damage, I should be able to take advantage of that?
No, the concept is actually your tanks are better at close range than their tanks are right now, but I'd probably do this even if they had heavier brawl tanks. The
Right.
concept that you're running into is I actually want my team to brawl right now, and I expect these guys to run from me, and if I can lock these guys in with a flashbang, my Reinhardt is going to have a very happy time, that sort of thing.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yes.
It's
Taking advantage of how my tanks want to play.
Yeah.
rest in peace.
Heroes never die.
That was a broken mech you're shooting at, but okay.
We still need you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it might make the list.
Like, she's not focusing you. You're safe. You can calmly take your last 2 shots at her. And recall is definitely faster than your reload.
You should be at peak
Thank you
performance.
kindly.
Okay. Let's get ourselves. Where are we going? Garden, control center, garden. Or night market, rather.
Yeah.
Thanks. Put it on my
Sure.
tab.
Nice fire strike you right there.
Yeah, I did. That was bad.
Yeah, a little bit. Okay, so this is gonna be fun. So here you are. You have that fire strike, and your crosshair is just chilling on the ground there. No enemy will be there. Maybe there will be a Sombra translocator if you're super lucky, but that's okay. We're taking some shots. Cool. Oh, Reinhardt's shield is still up, and there's a diva in front of you. Huh. Kind of weird that you're reloading, but okay.
Yeah.
You decide that you want to play main with your team here. It's gonna have a tough time. Hmm. Sure. No. The statue was good. The statue was good. The statue gave you a little bit of a different cross angle than your team. That's desperately
Yeah.
what we want. Like I'm struggling to send you this way because you're slow, and these guys were gonna beat you here, and then you were gonna be in trouble, and you don't have a good kite right out. But like a gentle off angle like this, especially when you're already going towards it, that's what we like. We want that. Sure. I guess. Okay.
That a fair fight.
So you do this, and like, if you were on it, you'd hear this pin and you'd instantly flash, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, I don't care that you're reloading and that it's going to interrupt your reload. I want that pin canceled. But I'm also not clear.
That a
Do this.
fair
You have
fight.
fire there to worry about. You're now stuck in a bad spot. This 2 ammo reload is painful. Sure. Okay.
Yeah, no,
Most of your
watching it
reloads.
back, I'm realizing how much time I'm wasting by
Oh, yeah.
reloading.
Oh yeah, and this angle is open for most of your reload, so like, oof. Oh boy.
I think this is a combination of Call of Duty and the fact that I hate when I go to shoot something and I don't have ammo in it. So
Oh,
it's
for
what I've
sure,
trained
for
myself
sure.
to
And
do.
you know, we're not going to make you just never reload ever again. There are times in between combat where you'll reload for sure. It's not like, oh, we won the team fight, I have 2 shots left, I just have to start the next team fight with 2 shots. That's obviously not where we're going to take you,
Right.
but we are going to have to scale back your reloading significantly.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to be here. So I'm looking at this, and you pushed in pretty aggressive here ahead of your Reinhardt. Your Reinhardt caught up.
Mm,
Your Reinhardt's pushing this way. What's the next thing I want you to do?
mm, I don't think I have the time to rotate to get to either side, so I would just say take the other door.
Right. Gentle off angle is plenty. Yeah, if we could get like here, sure, that would be fun. But like even the gentle off angle is plenty. We're gonna have to be conscious of elimination timers and when we got our last elimination and how quickly a target's gonna be back. But over here is plenty for what we need to do.
Let them up.
And even just makes me
Yeah,
sad.
that was a bad one.
Okay. So this sort of where you send your window through your high noon and the same piece of cover blocks window that blocks high noon. Like, if they stand right here, they're safe against both things, right?
Right. No, I think that was just instinctive based on the window, and I didn't even consider how their escape routes would affect them
Right.
behind me.
And I want to break that instinct. Window
Yeah.
should actually encourage you not to high noon because it's really unusual. How do I want to put this? If you get a window, the most dangerous time for the window is really that first second or so that window exists. Fair?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because people are able to get behind cover within roughly that first second of, like within that first second or so. And then at that point, if they get eliminated to the window, it's really on them. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The least dangerous part of high noon is that first half second, right? Because the ramp up is so slow, but the ramp up accelerates as it goes on longer. I don't know if you're
Yeah.
aware that that's how high noon works.
The damage output?
Yes.
I knew that it grew as you targeted more people, but I didn't know that there was an initial ramp up.
Grew as you target more people.
Well, like it goes from what is it, either left to right or right to left? I can't recall.
Oh, what I simply mean is the damage from a high noon. Like, let's just say that you have one person on your screen. You have just Baby Diva on your screen with this high noon. I'll just keep it real simple with one target. It's gonna
Mhm.
take you. It's gonna take you some amount of time to ramp up to lethal, to ramp up to 150, to ramp up to 200 damage. But you're going
Right.
to get from 0 to 150 slower than you get from 150 to 300.
Okay.
Yes. The beginning is pretty bad. The beginning of High Noon is pretty bad in terms of the ramp up, and that first half second is pretty worthless for damage. So
Right.
if the most
Okay.
dangerous time for the window is the first second, and your half second is kind of worthless here, you don't really ever need more damage through a window, and you're not even getting more damage through a window by high nooning. So what you
Yeah.
want to when you're comboing window and high noon is to go, hey, I've got a high noon over here and a window over there, and now different shields, different pieces of cover. We threaten the same area with some of our crisscross, but we also threaten different areas behind cover, like getting behind
Right.
cover against the window here. Oh shoot, I'm dead to the high noon, and that sort of thing. Or aha, I've got cover against the high noon. Oh, the window is taking me out. That's how you think about comboing these. So if a window shows up in front of you, it's kind of dead to you. It's kind of like, okay, I'm not, like, your instinct should be I am not committing high noon to this, not I'm committing high noon. Okay?
Okay. That's gonna
Cool.
be difficult to explain on ladder, but it makes perfect sense to me.
That's okay. That's okay. But if you see that your BAP has window and you have high noon, you
Yeah.
can pre-consider that the window is likely to come out and take an off angle. Of course, I'm generally going to want you to take an off angle. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think that'll be a question that I have at some point is like how to conceptually consider when I can take an off angle. Because I mean, obviously, it varies quite a bit. I'm
hmm
imagining map to map, composition to composition. But if there are any general pointers for how to consider the value of taking an angle.
Sure. All roads you're going to find are going to lead to taking an off angle. And it's funny, but I'm going to give you some guidelines, and then you're going to follow those guidelines, and you're going to wait temporal you explained 80% of all situations. So
Okay.
let's say that you're behind in a team fight. It's a 5v6, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you just keep doing what you're doing, you're probably going to lose because they have more pressure per second, right? They have more, their
Yeah.
cooldown cycling back just because they have an extra body on the board, they have an extra weapon on the board, all that stuff. Okay, that makes sense. So if you go missing for a couple seconds, 2 seconds, 3 seconds to establish an off angle, your team might just lose while you're missing, but that's a way that you can get more power and explosively potentially take someone out, right?
Hmm.
So when you start to get behind in a fight, it makes sense to go, hey, I better go off angle. I better go missing, go off angle, do that sort of thing. Okay, that makes sense. Well, what if a fight is a stalemate? Well, if a fight is a stalemate, the most valuable thing you can do is generally going to be, well, if it's a stalemate, I need to change something. So I probably need to go get an off angle to threaten their cover, to force them to rotate or to get a pick. Okay.
Hmm.
Well, if we get ahead in a fight, what's going to happen is, hey, we're pushing into the opponents, that sort of thing. I don't actually want us to all get funneled in, drawn in going forward. So I need to be more disciplined and intentionally loop outside of my team and not just press W so that I can maintain an angle so that we don't just all walk past them into a choke and then get crushed, that sort of thing. Or so that they can't get away, that sort of thing. You're going to find that all routes lead back to off angling. So the better question is going to be, well, when to off angle or how to off angle. And the answer to that is you want to off angle, like you can either pre-set up on an off angle if you have time to do so between fights, or you can go, hey, off angling is going to be dangerous here, or there's roaming things that could find me, Sombras, Tracers, Hammonds, maybe I don't want to mess with
Right.
them, Roadhogs, whatever. And so what I want to do is I want to take short off angles. I want to stay with my team and then do short rotations to an off angle
Okay,
basically
that makes
as the
sense.
tank lines meet. Because once your tank lines start to approach each other, or once they meet, that's when it becomes harder for things like Diva to break off and deal with you, for things like BAP to turn and shoot at you, because they're sort of focused at that point. Like they get more
Hmm.
focused as the tank lines meet, and that's when, even if you were lurking on some off angle, let's say that you had preset up. Let's say you had preset up in such a situation where you let your team hold point, you guys had point control, and the opponents are coming back to go to point, and you just chilled here. And you just waited and chilled here, and then you'd open this surprise angle on them once the tank lines have started to meet. Does that make sense?
Overall, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
The what I wrote down was that off angles are generally preferable, and that you just kind of adjust the size based on the number of potential threats. So if there's a Sombra tracer or something like that, maybe there's shorter angles, but
Mhm.
if you have fewer things that can threaten you, you take bigger off angles.
As well as how quickly they can chase you down, and map geometry does matter. Like it's hard for you to
Yeah,
off angle over here against this team because like it would be hard against any number of heroes because your kite path just sucks, right?
right.
Like
But if
you're
I had Ash, maybe, because I can get the coach gun out.
yeah, maybe
Not that I
like
would
I'm
even play
gonna
that.
play Hans from here or something, something like
Yeah,
that. But yeah, like your off angle, your kiting path sucks, so you're gonna play more of these tighter off angles where you go, hey, I'm gonna threaten from here, this sort of thing, or I'm gonna let my team control point where I play from here, that sort of thing. But I think you got it.
Do something! Suiting up!
Okay. So this was noticeable that this was going south a little bit earlier. I see that your team's getting pushed out, and you're just like, I'm gonna get him, I'm gonna get him, and I'm sort of like,
yeah.
well, maybe you're gonna get them, but your team is
Even if
kiting
I
out.
do, it doesn't matter.
You, I mean, if you trade for two, it's fine, right? Like, I don't mind if, for example, you'd gone and taken this off angle earlier and you trade out
Yeah,
2 or 3 people before you get eliminated, you've still won the fight, and that's a perfectly reasonable thing for you to have done. And that could be okay if you did this here, but there's just no reason to do this here. There's like no reason not to work yourself out over here where you have a better situation. Now, that reason might be
right.
their Cassidy or their Ash, excuse me, but like realistically, you're going to work yourself out because okay, yeah, I'm a little worried about their BAP. Their BAP could shoot at you, but their BAP's, hey, your tank lines have met. Their BAP is probably paying attention to his Reinhardt and your Reinhardt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you just sort of lost the plot here, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think generally I just need to be able to improve where my tracking of where enemies and allies are.
Yep. And I would start for you as a Cassidy player, I would start on tracking where your tanks and their tanks are. Obviously,
Okay.
there's more things that matter. You're going to want to know where the supports are. You're going to want to know where off-angling DPS are. You're going to want to know everything. You're going to want to track
Hmm.
all 12 people on the board at some point. The enemy team is, I would say if you can track your tanks, the enemy team becomes more important than the rest of your team, but you are
Hmm.
ultimately going to try to work your way into tracking 12 people, but start by
Right.
tracking sort of both teams' tanks because that'll at least let you get the timings of engagements down.
Right. So in order, focus my tanks, enemy tanks, and then enemy supports, my supports,
I'd
or vice versa.
probably, if I was really doing this, go your tanks, enemy tanks, and then I would probably move into enemy DPS before I'd move into supports. Not because I want you shooting always at the enemy DPS
Right.
before the enemy supports or anything, but the enemy DPS are more likely to have meaningful off angles that you need to shoot at. Generally in Overwatch, you want to shoot at the target that has the biggest angle on your team. That's what needs to be dealt with first, because
Right.
if you have a big angle on the opponents, you're gonna tend to win. So like if there's an off angling Ash, I kind of need you to shoot that Ash to make her go away, either go away or
Hmm.
go back to her team and lose the angle. Whereas I don't
Yeah.
really need you to shoot at their Zen as much. I like shooting at their Zen, I like eliminating their Zen, but he's not likely to off angle as hard as an Ash or a Roadhog
Yeah.
or something like that, right?
Yeah. I think that's honestly just early Overwatch knowledge that I'm going to have to unlearn, because the basics that I usually roll with is Reinhardt as a shield, stay behind it, and if you eliminate their supports, they tend to die first.
Right. I totally get it. I totally get it.
Yeah.
But it's not an MMO boss, right? Like, we're not
Yeah.
playing a MMORPG where, like, yes, healers heal the tanks, take all the hits because the mobs will hit them, and DPS try to, go through oodles and oodles of health that the enemy mobs have because that's how they're balanced, with tons of health and not very high damage. It's not one of those, so, like, that way of thinking about the game doesn't work. Like, if it's easier to remove, you want to deal with the biggest threat first, and that's generally going to be an off-angling Zarya, an off-angling Diva, a Tracer on a 90-degree angle, an off-angling
Yeah.
Ashe, rather than, like, if you can eliminate the BAP, that's really powerful, don't get me wrong. But the only way you're going to eliminate the BAP in a lot of situations is take a really deep off-angle yourself, right?
Right, that makes sense.
Okay.
Back in the saddle again.
Damage boost. And you're about
Thanks.
to join me.
Put it on my tab.
I'm with you. Damage and
Okay. I'm okay with you staying here only because I see what Hog is doing.
Right now, I'm trying to figure out where our Ryan is, and I realize he went to ball.
Got
That's
it.
why I'm
Got
sitting
it.
here.
No problem. But if you knew where he was, if you'd press tab, you'd realize, oh wait, Hanzo's
Yeah.
threatening the other team, balls in, you need to be fighting right now. And your Mercy is
Right.
about to check out and be like, I boosted you this long and you did nothing. But hey.
Yeah.
Okay. Flash.
Don't move.
Okay. Okay. So this is happening, and they're paying a little bit of attention to you, and I don't like it. So you do this. This is great. Oh, hey, they're paying attention to you, and you don't seem to like that they're paying attention to you either. And is your team, like, in danger right now? Are they actively fighting your team?
Well, Roadhog is, but
Yeah, but
I
he's
think the
fighting
reason
one
I-
person.
Yeah, I think the reason I'm staying here is because I have both healers looking at me, so I figure I can win the duel with Ashe or at least pressure Diva.
Okay. Okay. Could you do it better from here?
Yeah, I think the reason I don't take that is because I'm afraid that the Diva will jump on me, essentially.
Yeah, that would be a real problem if you didn't have a Mercy, wouldn't it?
That would be, yeah.
Okay.
I guess, yeah, that's probably due to the fact that my game sense isn't good enough so that I'm paying attention to the fact that I have it at Mercy. So yeah, I don't even know why I said that
that's
safe
fair.
here because
That's fair. So generally, I'd look at this, and honestly, I'm not too worried even if Diva tries to force the fight with me, because even if Diva forces the fight with me, I have potentially a health pack, and I have combat roll. If Diva uses boosters to go across the opening to get to me, I actually expect that she's going to get punished some by the BAP, by the Hanzo, by my team.
Yeah.
Even if I don't know exactly what and where my team is, I have a general sense that I have team back here, other than Roadhog, and if you fly across the opening, you're going to take some level of punishment. And even if you don't, I can probably get out okay. And
No, I see
now
your point.
you
I
don't
think I
have
could probably
boosters.
pressure her down.
What's that?
Yeah, I see your point. Because
Okay.
I know that I have at least one or two people looking at that space, so even if she does fly at me, the odds that she's going to get burst down before I do are good.
Right. And then when you're here, you now do a much better job of scaring these people back, which lets your team rotate forward to a place where they can go to the point better, right?
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay. Ooh, I'm not sure I want to challenge Ashe at that range. I guess I'll do it with the Mercy, but okay. You were just ready to brawl here. Okay.
I have a habit, and you can tell me if this is a bad one, of when I see a Reinhardt, I'm probably just gonna unload the right click into him. And especially if he's not in a position where there's a support nearby,
Sure.
I'll probably try to just take a little bit of an angle on him and put as many shots in as I can, just because at least maybe it's old, maybe if I get higher into plat or diamond, that's not gonna work anymore, but they generally don't respond quick enough to be able to get all the swings on me they need.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, plus you've got combat roll to make it a little bit harder there, and you'll use it in part of it. I get it. I'm not too worried about that. Truth be told,
Okay.
I'm just looking at this and sort of going, hey, you're coming in here, and I sort of look at, if I'm getting this melee aggressive against their front line, I'm generally looking to make a flash play to enable my tanks is the thing. Usually if
Right.
I'm getting this melee aggressive, it's either a flash play while my tanks can use it, or I'm getting this aggressive on their back line. And you're sort of getting pretty aggressive. I don't want to say by yourself, but sort of by yourself here. And what I mean by that is, yes, your team is pushing, but like you're going for fan there. You're getting
I
sort
guess
of
I kind of assumed that Ryan was not gonna just drop his shield and move right there, but
Okay.
yeah, that doesn't make sense. As soon as he does that, I should have focused the map.
Yeah. Okay, we're
I'm
gonna
staking my
touch.
claim on the objective.
You guys are granted a second life here. Okay.
Now, hold on.
I'm surprised you took that long. Not to take him out, but like, oh, I have a clean chance to flash you. Why would I not just flash you every time here?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I literally look at this and go, I'm gonna have flashback before more people show up, and even if more people do show up, like, I don't need to hold my flash to protect myself. Like, if I'm getting an elimination with my flash, right?
Right.
Yeah, like, I feel safe because we've gotten players off the board. Okay.
Yeah. So I generally just need to flash targets that are easy and not allow my hubris to fights.
Kind of, yeah. But especially in that case where, like, his friends aren't here. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to be unhappy now.
Yeah, I'm
So
not
here we
taking
are.
the angle at all.
Exactly. This is here. You see this. Ball's unfortunately rolled back to you guys, which is not my favorite. And I'm looking at this and I'm going, oh, hey, yeah, that's happening. They're trying to rotate forward. Wouldn't it be nice to play from over here? I could do this. I could be putting pressure into them. I'd have a cover option as opposed to just being existing in the middle of the point. And I could also, if things start looking bad, for example, go, it's a long rotation, but things are looking bad. Let me go here and find if I can get a BAP to eliminate or an Ash to eliminate to
Yeah,
potentially
no,
turn
that
the
makes
fight.
sense. The only worry I would have about that is Diva flies over and gets me, but that seems really low that she would notice that.
Right. Like, I mean, oh, you saying when you stand here, Diva's going to go, aha, let me go like this. I mean, okay, she pushes you back onto point, which is exactly where you were before, right?
Right, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Like, your concern is almost, I might accidentally bait Diva into taking good positioning. Yes, that is in some ways a valid concern if she probably wouldn't take good positioning without you encouraging her to do so, as she is on
Yeah.
her road to bronze, but like, you can't let the threat of they might react to me being here and this would put them in good positioning cause you to not take good positioning.
No, and that's part of the reason that I decided that coaching would be a good idea is because I've browsed the Overwatch University subreddit a couple times,
Sure.
and I guess there does seem to be a general sentiment that there is a bit of a disconnect between the kind of advice that's generally out there when you watch pros play
Mhm.
compared to how to actually apply it on ladder. So that was where I was like, yeah, I have no idea how to do that.
Some of that. I mean, the thing is, if you play the hero right, if you play your hero correctly, you are going to be successful whether it's in a 4300 game or a 2300 game. Like, if you do it, it's just you can get away with a lot more in a 2300 game, and pros will get away with those things in 2300 games because they won't get punished for it. And like, oh, there's not a ton of like, oh, you need to do this specific thing to get to this rank and then you completely change your playstyle. That's mostly not right. It's mostly something you'd always go do that thing that you're able to get away with. It's just you can no longer get away with it as often, and you recognize what's stopping you from getting away with it, but you do still go get away with it when that opening shows up, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, well then, heads up, that's a very common sentiment on that particular
Oh,
subreddit. I've seen that many times.
I'm aware. I am very familiar with that
Okay,
subreddit,
yeah.
and they are
I was
familiar with
just
me. But it's one of those things where it's people sort of want it to be true because they want it to be like, well, you can't tell me, GM, how to play this game correctly because you don't understand what it's like. And it's like,
No,
well,
that
okay,
makes sense. Yeah. I can
yeah,
see why people would want to believe that. That
yeah.
was just a common enough sentiment that I had kind of bought into it because I was like, I guess it does make sense that there would be a level of coordination. Like, I guess one of the more common sentiments was that tanks who play in Diamond tend to be too aggressive when they play in maybe something like Silver, and they don't get the support that they're used to. But I don't know how much how much
I
that
mean,
actually is.
that's true for main tanks, I'll agree. Um,
Yeah,
that
maybe
is
not DPS.
true for main tanks, but like really only for main tanks. It's the sort of thing where I can get a little more than that. Like you can be a Sigma who takes an off angle and kites and expects your team to punish, and then your team is nowhere to be found and doesn't punish. But mostly that's a thing that's true for main tanks more so than off tanks, and you adjust
Mhm.
pretty darn easily and rapidly to what it is, and I'd really more say that's a bronze thing. Like, yes, it's true. Your Anna is not going to be as accurate, and she's not going to heal you as much, and your Moira is going to be off doing who knows what. Like, these are things that are going to happen, but that's just they have lower efficiency ratings, your teammates, and like, yeah, they have lower efficiency ratings. That actually just means that you need to have a higher efficiency rating and you had flaws in your gameplay of you weren't actually adjusting to the resources available. And sometimes that'll happen in GM games too, where it's like, why isn't my Anna healing me? Because she's protecting herself against a tracer, man. It happens. Like,
Yeah, that
it's
makes sense.
you just have to assume that your Anna is constantly protecting herself against a tracer, and it turns out you haven't had to because your divas have been pretty good at boxing out the tracer. You see where I'm going with
Yeah,
this?
that makes perfect
Yeah.
sense.
It's time.
Yeah, I don't like this
Time
one
to
either.
pull.
Well,
Time
actually,
to
this one does work out for me.
Triple kill.
Yeah,
I was about
you
to say.
you got a little greedy here. I'm not gonna lie. So like I look at this and like you give me a third skull, I'm pulling. Like I'm pulling on
Yeah.
this 100%. It might not break. We might not be charged enough yet. We are, but I want to make sure
Yeah.
we get at least some value out of this, and then I'm happy to go back to firing my normal shots. Right? Like
Yeah,
this
no, I
is
think this was just
Draw.
I don't have an understanding of how High Noon works, and I didn't need one up until now.
got it. Got it.
Triple kill.
Silver doesn't need that kind of.
Move 'em
This is
up,
true. This
get
is
'em
true.
out. Oh there.
You've just totally lost track of this Junkrat. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and I want you to push forward and get your early poke. Good, this is great. But I want you to keep rotating. Because I'm looking at this, and I know, even though there's a Reinhardt here, he doesn't have more than one friend with him, and I know that. You might not know
Yeah.
that, but I know that he doesn't have more than one friend with him, and I also expect that my team is pushing him. I can see my hog through the wall. I see a ball tether. I can just press W at this guy, right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But even if my game
Especially because I
sense
see the hog.
isn't quite that good and I don't realize that I have two friends here with me, I could still at the very least be going out here and set up out here, and now I have a situation where when the opponents try, including the Reinhardt, to rotate through in here towards my team,
Hmm.
I get to poke them the whole way through, but I also get to pre-poke them as they're sort of rotating down this part, which I really like.
Right.
Because I don't want them to rotate in for free. You instead are just sort of chilling and garden, and now you're walking up here. And I'm less sure that I want to be here now, to be perfectly honest, because now it's been a few seconds. Okay, we got the Reinhardt, so maybe it's okay. And now you got this, so it is
Never
okay.
had a chance.
So before then, the fear was that there were more people right there around the corner.
As far as you know, yeah. Because you're
Yeah.
just thinking about respawn timers and how long it takes to get here, and now you're in a situation where you're sort of in the front line, and your hog's not really going to protect you. Your ball can't,
Yeah.
he can help a
Ash
little
might have
bit,
been
but
rotated around. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So you'd have just fallen yourself back to something like here, or even like here. You just start to rotate back into that spot because you don't want them to just be on top of you. Okay, now we've got an Ash here, and we don't like that. And this is really too far forward for us given that this has happened. Like, who's in front of you
Yeah.
tank-wise on your screen?
I can't tell if
No
that's the ball over
No,
there.
well,
Is he still over there?
No, your ball just got scared out. He got forced out
Okay,
by the Ash. So
gotcha.
I don't strictly need them to be like, yes, I need your ball standing right here, your Roadhog right here, but I'd at least want to know that my ball is on my screen in terms of he's ready to hit her from the side, he's behind her, he's ready to hit them from the side, he's ready to do something like that. If I'm in this situation where both of my tanks are effectively behind me, Roadhog sort of counts. He's kind of in a useful place, but where both of your tanks are almost behind you, even just angle-wise, I probably am not wanting to be here anymore. I'm probably wanting to adjust. And if I adjust over to here, now my Roadhog is clearly in front of me, right?
Right.
Or if I adjust back to here, well, my Roadhog and my ball are sort of in front of me. But, okay.
So the fact that I have a Mercy right there with me doesn't negate that?
Totally lets you be more aggressive. It absolutely lets you be more aggressive, but I'm still going to want you to be aggressive on angles. This is main, and I don't really want you aggressive on main because you might be powerful with Mercy here, but if, let's say, a Reinhardt with a Zarya bubble shows up, how much is your Mercy helping you?
Not much, yeah.
Right, and okay, they're not going to have a Reinhardt with a Zarya bubble because that's not their team comp. Well, actually, they're going to have a Reinhardt with a defense matrix. So, like,
Right.
if Reinhardt shows up and you can't flash him, or Reinhardt Lucio shows up, your Mercy isn't going to matter, yeah?
Yeah, no, we're gonna probably lose that.
Right, and Mercy's amazing, and you should absolutely play more aggressive when you have a Mercy, but that means instead of playing here, you're potentially playing over here. You're potentially playing over here, that sort of thing.
Right.
Okay. You're being too scared. So, I get what's going on here. You feel anchored to your window. I totally get that. But your Roadhog is fighting right now, and you can't help, right?
Yeah.
So that doesn't work
That
for
makes
me.
sense.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that was just poor playing right there.
Okay.
I thought I was around the corner.
Oh boy, someone touched. Someone touched. Okay, barely. Okay, this is kind of junk time. Okay. Okay.
Ready for battle. Ready. 3, 2.
Okay, we playing some
Yeah,
Tracer.
I go Tracer this one for the
Sure.
instant.
Capture the objective.
Okay. What? No, please no. Please no.
Yeah, no, the blink management is gonna be poor.
No, it's not the blink management. Okay.
Oh.
So, you guys have a ball, a Tracer, and a Winston,
Mm-hmm.
as well as a Junkrat, a Bap, and a Mercy, but a ball, a Tracer, and a Winston. You guys are not going to win fights against Reinhardt Zarya if you all approach from the same direction. It's just not going to happen. So I look at this, and your Winston is maybe approaching from a different direction. Maybe he's going to drop from above, and that'll put him behind them, and that'll be good. But at this moment, your engagement direction sucks. You see that? So
Yeah.
what did you need to do here? You're here.
Take a very different angle so that when the ball engages, I can be shooting at someone who's not actively looking at me.
Right. It was easy for you to go over here, your Tracer, and then you get to shoot them from here. And even if you just tickle them from here, that's very annoying and it's very distracting. And if they don't respect you, you tickle them a little bit, and then you go, oh, you're not going to respect me? Okay, fresh clip, blink in, finish you off from 80, that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Your balls fortunately rolled through them. Your Winston jumps in from here, and you force your way over here. This wasn't the cleanest way to do it, but we got here. Now we deepen the angle. I like it. That is not exactly trigger discipline. Okay.
No, that probably will be another theme.
Could be.
The objective is
I don't really like this retreat path. So we look at this team. Does this team have anything to punish you if you live away from your team? Are you going to run into another Tracer, a Sombra, even a Hammond, a Winston, like a Roadhog? Are you going to run into anything if you play away from your team when you get scared?
I think the only thing would be an Ash headshot, maybe.
Yeah, sure. Right. So what that means is when you start to get pushed like this, I don't care. I'll just retreat out towards their spawn. Safe enough
Oh,
for
I see what
me.
you
I'm
mean. Yeah.
Tracer. Right? Like I'm
Yeah.
not going back to my team for safety. My team is not safety when I'm Tracer. Like yes, your team will be safety in the sense of like another Tracer drives you back, that sort of thing. But like
Mm-hmm.
most of the time, I don't want to retreat to my team because if you retreat towards your team, you now have to spend a bunch of time finding a different angle than your team before you can go in
Right.
again. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's just all over from the other heroes that I play.
Yep.
The objective is
The battle continues.
Okay. That was really expensive to get here. You're going in. You're going to try to TV1 him.
I actually think my Tracer gameplay is probably much worse than Cassidy or Ash, just because I spend less time playing her, and definitely, I don't know. I usually tend to go Tracer just whenever we're playing Dive, essentially.
Okay. You want the ability to be more sticky on the targets. I get it. Yeah, so this happens.
Let's try that again.
That's BAP. You shoot him a little bit. He's gone at 22 ammo. Oh, you stopped that pretty quickly. Sure. That one's not stopped early. Okay, he's gone at 22. He's actually a reasonable stop. That was just you emptying in air. Okay, so this is happening. Here we are. And we're sort of ineffectively finding damage. We're finding damage, and that's okay. And you're going in here and trying to get more. And then they're going to beat. And you're working on Zarya. And you can do that. You're going to struggle to find lethal. You guys don't have a Zen, do you? Okay. So this is going to be tough because your tracking is just going to struggle a little bit to find lethal. It's just a reality of the game, sort of, that... How do I want to put this?
I think this is another example of me tunnel visioning, too, because if I had seen that BAP,
Yeah, I know.
that would have been a target.
It would have. It would have. This is just a little tough. You're going to have a tough time hitting breakpoints with your aim at this level for tracking specifically and not having a Zen or anything to help you out. You're really going to need to put an emphasis on going after other people's targets right now. So we see this, and you're fighting Zarya. And you're fighting Lucio. Okay, there's a Zarya who's beaten, and Winston's fighting them. Now, okay, you're fighting Zarya again. And let's just go through this whole fight again. So, here we are. We're in this fight. You have to BAP who's alone. Winston's sort of on him with you. I'm with it. No one's on this target, but they're in a dangerous spot. You sort of need them to leave. I can live with it. That's a BAP that's cool. It'd be great to eliminate the BAP, but no one else is on the BAP. And the BAP, again, you're trying to stick to him, but no one else is on him. Now you're swapping to the Zarya. Who's on the Zarya?
I think I picked her just because I saw that she was half.
Sure, okay, so that's good. That can be a reason to pick her. Doesn't look like anyone's on her.
So I think what's going through my head in that moment is I generally want to be paying attention to the same set of people that my tanks are paying attention to, and then focus whoever they've already damaged.
Yeah, like
And
Winston is creating openings. That's sort of his job, or at least we hope that he's creating openings. And this would be an
mm,
example of, okay, maybe you created this opening. You've been working on Zarya for a bit, but he's zapping multiple people right now, and that opens up opportunities for you to finish. But it's going to be
right,
hard without better aim for you to just take out these targets because it's Bap. Bap has it's sort of a no skill. If Bap hits shift, he gets healed for 150 HP, right?
yeah,
You have to actually do 150 points of damage. Bap's shift is not that powerful in higher level games, but it's going to scale up in power in lower level games when people's damage is less consistent, right?
right,
So that doesn't mean like, oh, well, I just won't shoot at Baps because, you can't eliminate them or whatever. But it does mean
mm,
that you need to look a little bit, and this in general will help you in Overwatch a lot. Rather than trying to make your own plays, especially when you're on characters that can do good follow up like Tracer, like, yes, go attack the target who's on the biggest off angle because they'll cause problems for your team if they don't. But when fights get messy like this, when things just aren't dying, you have to find someone else's target and get on it because everyone is thinking that they're going to be the hero, that they are doing the most important thing. And
yeah,
go make Winston look good. Go make Winston's targets get eliminated. Or, oh,
yeah.
Zen put a Discord on Tracer. I guess I'm going to go fight Tracer for a bit. Or you see where this is going.
And
Okay.
I think to some degree, I just need to spend more time training aim with Tracer, just because I think, generally speaking, I spend about three times as long playing Cassidy to Tracer,
Yes.
as far as percentage.
Yes, and it does show a little bit. Your aim is hurting a little bit on this. You're actually stopping your fires at an okay speed in terms of once they're behind walls. You're spending some extra ammo, but like I expected it to be worse. But yes, your aim, your tracking just isn't quite where we want it there. We're doing a little too much following rather than predictive leading, but that's okay. I mean, that's mechanics. You'll
Mm,
work on them. Okay.
Heroes never die. Speed kills.
I don't
yeah,
want
no,
to stay
that was
here.
bad.
I'm good with this. I want the Zarya elimination. They can't res Zarya. I've got very little desire to be here right now. And if I
Yeah,
look at
so
my
kind of the
team,
stairs.
I'm sort of like that. So where are you going to think I'm going to tell you to go?
I'd say I'd pick the stairs just because I think going right means that there's too much of a
Right.
gap close.
No, I'm good with
You
you
don't have
going
as much
left.
cover.
I'm good
Yeah,
with you going over here. But as Tracer, you generally want to work your way to the outside of the fight. That's sort of safest. You want to be on the outside shooting in.
Wait for it.
I did not want to blink back this way. I wanted to blink left up the stairs. Okay, Winston went in, and you've got 2 blinks and recalls 3 seconds out. I'm probably going in with him, because if I go in with him, I can get past the window. There's a Winston bubble. He's in, which means I can probably find something to eliminate. If I don't go in, he's taking all the pressure, and he's potentially in trouble. I'm willing to go in on
right.
this. I don't love that he went in before you had recall, but I also didn't actually expect him to be tracking your recall in this game, so...
The objective is mine.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
that Winston's actually in my party. I don't think we're that good.
It's okay, it's okay.
Finish it off.
Sure, go take your angle, good. I don't mind if you and Ball come in from the same angle as long as it's a different angle than the rest of your team. 3 angles is generally your magic number, but if you and Ball end up on the same angle, that's not world ending. Okay, we don't need to fight that Ash.
No, this was a bad idea. See, I died.
Yeah. Fighting Ash 1 blink after she had the Zarya bubble advantage. Nah, I'll just wait a bit.
No. Part of that was I just didn't respect her after the first 2 rounds. She hadn't hit that many shots, so I figured I should pressure her. But also I was basically just walking around that corner instead of blinking past it, which was better, I think.
It was, but you only had 1 blink. You really just needed to not take that
Okay,
fight
yeah.
effectively, make her walk into your crosshair, an angle that you're holding, unless
Yeah.
you have enough blinks that you can invest in fighting her, which you will in a few seconds. But
Right.
okay, beautiful.
You got what's coming to you then.
Oh, look at this. You come in from a
Yeah.
different angle than your team. While your tank lines have met, you can see Reinhardt and Bob are trying to fight your monkey, and you go, oh hey, no one's paying attention, I eliminate this, and then you hop on the target that your ball is fighting, and easiest elimination of your life. That's how we want it.
I think the problem was that was more of an accident than intentional.
I know, but if you can do it once by accident, you get what it feels like, and you can be like,
Yeah.
oh hey, that. I don't want to fight him. So, like, this is happening.
I'm on fire.
There's a soldier. He's not looking at me quite yet, so I guess you can fight him if you want. But his crosshair's pretty close to where I am, and I have 2 blinks and recall. I don't really want him to hit me. My job as Tracer isn't to be like, oh, I'm taking damage, now let me move. My job is to blink as their crosshairs get close to me, because I get 3 blinks, and it's stupid. But I get 3 blinks, so I'm looking at this. I'm already blinking. Like, now his crosshair, he's gonna hit you eventually, and like, if you blink, you can 180 very quickly, because you know you're blinking, you know where you're blinking to. He might have a good guess of where you're blinking to, but he's gonna 180 more slowly than you, unless you have 0 practice on Tracer, because you get very familiar with 180ing on Tracer. You know where he is better than he knows where you are. You also have the option of blinking over here and spinning, of blinking over here and angling in. But, like, you hit that blink, you'll react faster, and you really can't afford to take damage on your squishy Tracer health pool. Instead, you just got hit with a Helix rocket. Like, no.
Deja vu.
Okay.
I'm operating at optimal levels.
Cool.
Yeah, I think I respect you enough that time.
Sure. But I still want the angle back. Here's the thing. Like, I don't want to go here because now they can potentially walk through here, and I don't really want them to be able to walk through here and start shooting your team from the side. So I'm willing to back off a little bit. Whatever the case may be. But I'm going to make them walk into my crosshair, or I'm just going to wait for 1.5, 2 seconds until I expect they're rotating again, and then I'm going to go back and force it because I want to nip at their heels as they're going in. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, but I have a follow-up. So
Please.
I guess what doesn't make sense in my brain based on that is the bigger angle is the other side of the map, and then the way that I can stick with my tanks is right here. Is that just my misunderstanding, or is there
I don't need you to stick with your tanks at
value to
all.
it?
I don't need you to stick
Okay.
with your tanks at all. I'm curious. I want you to engage when your tanks engage, and I'd like you to attack some of the same targets as your tanks, especially when the fights get messy and start going
Right.
long like this. But, like, I'm perfectly happy if you're over here and your Winston is over here, and you guys jump in, and your Winston is cleaving their front line. Maybe your Winston is cleaving here, and he's getting all 3 of them. Maybe he's just getting the 2, and you see that he's getting them, and you get to make your decision, am I going to go after BAP, or am I going to go after Ash? Well, I'm probably going to go after BAP in this situation, because he's on the outside, and if I go in, then BAP shoots me, and I don't really like that. But, like, if they're tight together, Winston cleaves all of them. Even if they're not tight together, it's really hard for the BAP to look away from the Winston as this is happening as you go after him, right? Okay.
I guess my thought is I'm looking at a half health Lucio that has the lightning gun on it. That doesn't seem like a point where I would want to disengage. So I.
Oh no, you wouldn't have disengaged here, but you never would have seen that situation because here you are, and I'm just gonna sit here with my crosshair here for a second while I maybe recharge a blink, maybe wait 1.5, 2 seconds, and then I'm gonna go back in because she's gonna get bored. She can't afford to do this. If I don't hear her walking up this way, she's going this way or going this way, and I want to come in here and bother her from the back or start bothering her team from the back.
That makes sense.
But no, this second, I'm not going to tell you to leave. I just don't like that you're here in the first place. Okay.
Back in the fight.
But why, though? They forgot all about you. Imagine how much more of a surprise it's going to be when you pulse bomb them from here, as opposed to shooting them from over here at Narnia distance.
So, no mid to long angle tracer fights.
Okay, I see that. I like it. I'm going to shoot him. It's unfortunate. Yeah, we postponed before we knew the status of her personal bubble. You'll never get her down. So, I see
Yeah,
this.
that was a lot of wasted shots right there.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You're reloading. She's about to go behind cover, and Bap now has double strength heals through this window, right?
Yeah.
The only thing you can really do is go after the BAP. It sucks. I'd like to go deal with other things, but BAP is just going to heal everything right now, right?
Yeah. No, that was my brain just not tracking the fact that BAP was even going to be able to heal her right there.
Yep, no problem. It's getting way closer than you should on eliminating her, but okay. And again, you're in the middle of the fight here when there's an outside. If you can attack from the outside in, you do like that more than being in the middle of the fight. You're going to be a lot less safe in the middle of the fight. You're going to have to spend a lot more blinks more quickly in the middle of the fight. It's, yeah.
And have fewer to get out. That makes sense.
Ouch. Good. Sure. Okay.
Let them out. The objective.
I don't think so.
The objective.
Like, I guess you can shoot Bob from here, and that's fine, but Bob is nowhere near getting eliminated. Like, if we're gonna fight him, we probably need to get right in his face, but okay.
No, I think I would have gone over for the left side.
Yeah.
Either Ryan or whichever the DPS was over there.
Mm-hmm.
Overtime.
Get in here. You all look like you needed some healing.
Okay. So again, you see, you went in here, you started dealing with this immediately. Oh shoot, there was someone on an outside angle. This is actually the most dangerous, and now they're gonna get the jump on you.
Get in the immortality field.
And you don't have to be on point this second. I know it's scary, it's overtime, but like you guys do have 3 people on point right now, and you have tanks alive. And I'm gonna guess that Ball is gonna choose to just live on point until he's eliminated. Yeah, unfortunate. Okay, so let me get a less annoying ticky noise. There we go. Okay, so we look at this, and obviously I can go through this and give you 2 to 3 things for each hero to work on, and I'm certainly prepared to do so, but it's actually more useful if you sort of phrase yourself what you think was most important as you went through here. It's going to stick in your brain better if we can do it that way. If we can't, that's totally fine. I'm not going to let you walk out of here without productive things to work on that you understand, but do you feel like you can take a stab at what you think was important, having gone over this with me?
Definitely.
Have
I
at
would
it.
say top 3 are going to be paying attention to where my tanks are,
Okay.
as far as their engagements and relative safety.
Yep.
So when I want to be aggressive, when I want to back up. Number 2, and I don't mean this in the sense of like importance, but the
Sure.
top 3 are reloading
Okay.
and I'd say number 3 would probably be just determining when to take short versus long off angles. So almost never want to be directly behind the tank, but taking an off angle. And then I think the only thing for because Tracer's kind of the same in that sense,
Mm-hmm.
taking big angles almost always, because you're never going to really want to just be taking a short off angle with Tracer.
That's true,
And
generally.
then the only other big thing I would say for Tracer was that I just want to be outside of the fight more often than in the middle of it.
Yes. Those are all good. I would say the one thing I would get to there is it's okay to be with your team on Cassidy, for example, when you're rotating through stuff. Like your team is rotating through tricky spots. Your team is rotating in, or if we go back to, let's go back to Garden, for example, assuming I can get my mouse on the right screen. when your team is rotating across something like this, you probably do
Hmm.
want to be, unless you've gone totally independent, you probably do want to
Yeah.
be with them, because vulnerable spots and rotations, you want things like that Reinhardt shield, that Lucio speed, that Diva defense matrix. You just want to
Hmm.
then get yourself away to cover as you sort of get
Right.
to where the fight would start. So for rotations, it is okay, is what I would mention as sort of
Right.
the caveat that doesn't quite fit inside in what you discovered there. But
Yeah, so
yes,
maybe not never be with your team, but look for every opportunity to maximize
off angles.
pressure, essentially using angles.
Yes, yes. And I'd say you've got it. And you've got that. You've distilled those down into concepts in terms of those are understandable, digestible things. You can look at your note and actually like be able to think about such a short phrase, and it um, should evoke enough of what you need to focus on there. Don't try to do all those things at once. Try to work on those things one at a time. And like it might take you 40 games to implement, it might take you 5 games to implement, but try to work on it. We're trying to get these things into your autopilot one thing at a time so that you don't
Hmm.
fully have to be thinking about them. So you just sort of do them the way that you don't have to think about moving your feet when you're riding a bicycle. You don't have to think about,
Right.
how to steer. We want this to be your autopilot, because then we'll take that free space in your brain because it's moved to your autopilot and go work on the next thing, or free you up to
Right.
think more about tactics, or free you up to watch the opposing Anna's hand movement more closely so you can see if she's going for a shot
Yeah.
or a sleep dart, that sort of thing. Um,
Gotcha.
so that's what we want to do. So I want you to work through these things one at a time. I would say you're going to get a lot of benefit off of focusing on these are all ones that actually are pretty important for you. You're going to get a lot of benefit off of thinking about off angles. Like off angles are going to help you a lot if you can really maximize those. Those are like critical for playing Tracer there, but also
Hmm.
quite helpful for playing your Cassidy. And then so I'd start there. Your tank thing is just going to help you with everything. Your engagement timings are going to be so much better if you can start tracking both sides' tanks better. Like that, if you can go, hey, I'm actively going to devote thought power to that. So I'd probably work on that second. And then it
Hmm.
pains me to put the reload thing as third because you've got a reload issue. And I don't want that to permatize. I don't want you to play 200 more games before you start working on that. But when you
Hmm.
do get to working on that, really try to focus and really try to get that fixed. Like I'm almost tempted to move that up your list because I don't want you playing another 100 games like that and sort of permatizing it. So I actually am going to move that up your list because I think that's a harder habit to break. So I sort of want you
Yeah.
to work on it. Yeah, I do want you to work on it first.
Okay.
Yeah. So with that
I
in
can do
mind,
that because I probably already kind of pay attention to where my tanks are, so working on reloads should probably go first.
okay, okay. Okay. Then do you have any questions, comments? Do all those make sense to you? I mean, I think they did. You just explained them to me, so clearly they make sense. But
Yeah.
that's fine. Do you have any questions, comments, anything else you feel like like to get into here?
I think the only other two questions I have just as a conclusion would be one, um, does the how much should map factor into which highlight I select for next session? Like,
Okay.
does it really matter if it's a payload map or if it's something like um, a weird one like Junkertown?
Okay. Not very much. Map really isn't going to matter very much because a lot of Overwatch plays the same. Yes, there are map
Okay.
differences. Yes, we obsess over map differences sometimes when we get to professional level play and we complain when the map pool's too big. You're making us practice every map. We can't practice every map in a scrim. Yes, we complain. We like to bellyache. But
Hmm.
what you're going to find is you're not to the point in Overwatch. You're nowhere near the point in Overwatch where much of the maps are making much difference. Like,
Right.
okay, yeah, there's a couple things that are map specific at this level that we'd talk about, such as, hey, King of the Hill tends to be a little smaller. It's a little harder to find your off angles. You're probably going to need to leave to go get your off angles in the middle of the fight as opposed to pre-rotating a little more often than you'd have to on payloads, because payloads, if you win the team fight, you sort of have a bit more to establish, that sort of thing. We could get
Hmm.
into that, or things like, hey, rollouts are more important, taking space in that first neutral fight. But mostly, no, you aren't at the level where we really get into the map types or the maps themselves being, oh, we've got to work on this. So like, I mean, you could bring Lijiang Tower 3 more times, and that would be fine. I don't necessarily recommend that, but like,
Yeah.
no, I wouldn't worry too much about the map.
Okay. And then the only other question I have is I tend to be, uh, I guess, somewhat flexible with my picks as far
Hmm.
as I'm probably going to almost always default to Cassidy or Ash is probably the second pick if there's longer angles on the map.
Sure.
Um, and then Tracer for dive, and then if a projectile hero is really needed, like if there's a I don't know if there's a Pharah, maybe I'll go Echo, or if they, maybe Pharah. But I guess my question is, would it be better to just schedule, like, pay for separate sessions? Because not that I'm asking you from
Sure.
that perspective, but like from my perspective, would it be more valuable from my perspective to just use separate sessions or a separate set of sessions for specifically for Echo Pharah, as opposed to just like how much does that change?
It doesn't really make a ton of difference in terms of how you do it. Like, we did a bundle for you here because that's one way that I offer a thing. But, if you go, hey, I want, more than 4 sessions, obviously we can do more than 4 sessions. It doesn't really matter if it's like, yes, 4 sessions is exactly the right number of sessions to get good at
Right,
Cassidy. No, that's not really how it works. Like, I'm a coach, I'm going to help you get better. I'm effectively applying, if I'm any good, a multiplier to the speed at which you get better. You might be getting
right.
better twice as good fast, you might be getting better 20% faster, but I'm applying a multiplier to how much faster you're getting better. And like,
Hmm.
no, I'm not going, yes, in 4 sessions you will be a top 500 Casty
No.
guaranteed. And oh no, you've gone and pulled out and used one on Farah, and that's why you're not top 500. I don't promise you that. I can't guarantee that
Yeah,
you're going to
no.
implement anything that we worked on today. So I would say
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter if you feel like, hey, I want to go work this session on Echo. I'm perfectly happy to do a session on
Hmm.
Echo, but I would say don't overwhelm yourself, don't overload yourself, and
Yeah.
spend some time working on the Cassidy stuff, and then decide, hey, I've made some good progress on Cassidy, and maybe have a question or two on that, but I actually now want to work on some Echo stuff, or go, hey, I want to keep working on this Cassidy because I'm seeing improvements and I want to go. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
that's everything.
Then I think we are good to go.